Hello, Steve. Today is Monday, June the 9th, and welcome to a special World Cup edition of the Rad Bromance. As it always seems to be the case, as one major sporting event comes to a close, another one begins. So with the Stanley Cup playoffs coming to a close pretty soon, and the NBA playoffs not far behind, it's time to think about the World Cup. But of course, the World Cup is unlike the Stanley Cup playoffs and the NBA playoffs, as it doesn't happen every year. It happens every 4 years. Much like the Winter Olympic Games or the Summer Olympic Games. There's also a significantly more global aspect to the World Cup to, say, the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's an event that captivates the attention of the world, not just North America. So much like the Winter Olympic Games in February, we head to another exciting time in sports that only comes every 4 years. And also like the Winter Olympic Games, another one of those sporting events that draws the interest of casual sports fans and not just the diehards. And can even draw the attention of people who don't care about sports that much at all. Now the World Cup can provide an interesting opportunity for us to do another challenge. And this is one of those great opportunities for us to have one of these challenges because, let's be honest, neither one of us knows very much about soccer. But in spite of not knowing very much about soccer, I expect that we're both probably going to watch it fairly closely anyways. So if you're interested, Steve, in making some predictions for the World Cup, go talk to Mark. We sat down pretty recently and made predictions for every game of the World Cup to see who'd come out on top. But if that sounds a little bit too intense and you prefer something a little bit easier, I might suggest just picking the final 4 teams, and then the 2 teams in the finals, and then the champion. When I made my predictions, I mostly followed conventional wisdom, but I made a few choice upset decisions. For starters, I have the United States of America winning an astounding 0 games. I also have some typical powerhouse teams like England and the Netherlands not making it into the next round. But all that aside, most of the other teams I have going on are pretty much favorites. And my final 4 consists of Germany, Spain, Argentina, and the host country, Brazil. So in other words, I didn't stray very far from the football powerhouses of the world. So if an underdog run happens this year, I won't be the one predicting it. I'll just let that fall as it will. For my final 2, I put Argentina against Brazil. And that would be a really interesting final, considering the fact that this World Cup is played in South America. So that would see the host country pitted against their South American counterpart. And for my champion, I'd picked a team that hasn't really come through in most of the World Cups to date, but I think this year's going to be different. I picked Argentina. They do have arguably the best football player in the world in Lionel Messi. As I'm sure you've been able to see throughout this video, I'm wearing my Team Ukraine football jersey. I'm pretty disappointed that this World Cup I can't put this jersey to good use as the Ukraine did not qualify for the World Cup. And there's also no Canada to cheer for in the World Cup, because Canada is nowhere near good enough to qualify for the World Cup. So if you're interested in making predictions for the World Cup, you can make a prediction for every single game by sending them to Mark, or you can simply just make some predictions on who you think's going to either win the tournament or make the Final 4, or who you think's just going to be going down hard. And bonus points if you picked a top-tier team like England, France, or Italy not even making it to the next round. Because then you can tell people, I told you so. Much like I will be saying when the United States of America, England, and the Netherlands don't make it to the next round. And I'll be saying I told you so when Cameroon does. So go Argentina. I hope my predictions do well because, in all honesty, I don't know very much about football. Other than its proper name is football, not soccer, like we like to call it here. So hopefully, this year's World Cup can be even better than last year's World Cup, where me and a group of people successfully convinced someone watching the game that the Ivory Coast was actually a country in Antarctica. And somehow, amazingly, they believed us, in spite of the fact that the team looked suspiciously African. It's also worth noting that at the last World Cup, we didn't even know each other yet. So this is the first time we've ever experienced the World Cup knowing each other. So in all honesty, I have no idea what your opinion is on the World Cup, or if you even follow it. So I am aware that it's very possible that it's made an entire video about something that you could care less about. So if that's the case, you can disregard everything that this video stands for. So now to conclude with Battleship. Your previous shot was another hit. And once again, like I did the last time, I'm not going to sink your ship and instead start looking for some of your other ships before my time runs out. It's now time to predict what kind of battleship player you are. So far, all three of your ships have been aligned horizontally. So now it's time to debate the question, are you the type of person who would steer your ships some horizontally, some vertically to keep things even, or are you the type of person who would put all 5 of your ships horizontally to try to mess with the other person? Another question is, are you the type of person who will equally space out their ships, or would you clump some of them closer together to try to fool your opponent? Because if you decide to evenly space your ships, the top right corner is the most likely place to find another ship. It's also worth noting that none of your ships have been located along the edge yet, so perhaps one of your ships is on the edge. Or perhaps you tried to keep them all within the line. Also, your ships have been located in rows C, G, and J. If all your ships are horizontally, it's possible that also all separated by 2 rows. And that would make row A and row E possible locations of the ships if you follow that kind of a pattern. I'm going to go with a little bit of human organizing on this one and say you put some in row A, so I'm going to attack A9. In reality, my time is running pretty short, so I don't have much to go on. So I've got to try something interesting. So until the next time, I'm going to enjoy the end of the NHL and NBA playoffs and look forward to the start of the World Cup.